Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3996. Today's date is 11th of April 2026. It's been almost like a night at 10:28 p.m. All right, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. All right. So, question is, what distraction, phone, thought, ego prevent me from being fully present, and how can I eliminate one of them? Oh, that's really good question. All right, yeah. First of all, what exactly is this question, and why am I asking this question to myself? Couple of days ago, I read. Sorry. Okay. Couple of days ago, I read a book, "How to Win and Influence People" by Dale Carnegie. It was really amazing book. Highly recommend to you to read this book. Uh, I read this book and I wanted to implement the value that book taught me. How do I supposed to do that? By asking question to myself and giving the honest answer. So that's why I went to ChatGPT. Kind of like I said that I read this book. I wanted to implement the value. Suggest me 20 question. ChatGPT kind of like a suggest me 20 question, and this is one of those question. Now regarding about the question kind of like says, what distraction prevent me from fully present? How can I eliminate one of them? Like example as a phone, thoughts and egos and things and that. No, basically this is in this question kind of like says this thing. There are multiple of things are kind of like a distracting. Phone, thoughts, egos and things and that. Okay, yeah. How should you supposed to focus them? But this question is not about the phone and kind of like a distraction and things and that. This question is about a how to win and influence people. Like what exactly it means? Like this question is a meaning is a kind of like a somewhat something same. Like how should you supposed to be kind of like a somebody focus of things and that you how should you supposed to be kind of like a not to look your phone and things like that. This question is not about that. This question is about that he when you are try to conversation or when you are try to do communicate with someone else, what do you do? Like a most of the people are check their phone, or kind of like they thinking about something, or they might kind of like think about their ego and things and that. And this is usually always actually happen in communication. Always, literally always. Like checking the phone was, oh my god, like literally this was kind of like somebody is this thing that in normal, like literally just like that. Now people, when the people are actually talking, like basically this is what exactly happened. I was actually kind of like somebody talking about like me and my friend are kind of like talking about something. Okay, and I was kind of like explaining regarding about something. I don't know. We are just talking about something. In mid conversation, he was kind of like checking the mobile phone. He was kind of like looking at the kind of like somebody the stock market and things and that. And when I see that thing, I just drop it. Like basically, I just like it doesn't like it kind of like a feel like that. Na ki I'm kind of like putting a lot of effort to say this thing. This particular person is not listening. Okay, then I just kind of like a things that na ki I just fuck off, dude. Like basically, why would I supposed to waste time and waste my energy into such a person who doesn't really want? And that is kind of like a things. Like I usually na, like when like I get kind of like a somebody really fuck. Like someone like when I try to say something about something, and someone kind of like looking at their phone. Okay, there is a kind of like a moment where picking up the phone is essential, like a phone call or message or things and that. But if you are like there is nothing really at all and you are just checking the phone, it kind of like a feel like that na ki my the way that I'm saying or the whatever the stuff that I'm saying is not really kind of like a matter to you. Okay, like basically when you are kind of like somebody in real, I'm kind of like saying something and you are checking the phone, obviously everyone kind of like a feel hurtful that what the fuck is this. Okay, yeah. I am talking to you and you are kind of like simply opening your Instagram and kind of like scrolling feeds and things and that. So it does feel wrong. Okay, yeah, and it kind of like somebody is this thing na ki fuck dude, yeah, why would I supposed to do this thing? Okay, yeah. And this is kind of like one of the biggest kind of like a problem in communication. People just kind of like somebody just not they just not look at that. They just kind of like a tool. Like okay, let me tell you one thing. Okay, sometime na okay in the conversation usually people have a ego. Okay, yeah. And this is also kind of like only one of the biggest factor that people are just kind of like somebody have their ego and they just kind of like maintain their ego, and because of this thing conversation not happen like let me tell you one thing. What is exactly biggest enemy for not to have a conversation? Okay, yeah. The first biggest enemy is your mobile phone. Okay, yeah. Another biggest enemy is a thought, and like another would be kind of like a ego would be. Okay, yeah, ego. And then there is another different thought, like you are kind of like thinking about something and things like that. Okay, I'm gonna kind of like giving you examples so that you understand exactly. Okay, so basically you have a kind of like a simply girlfriend. You and you kind of like girlfriend are kind of like a went to a certain, like a went to date. Okay, like a went to a kind of like a dinner. Okay, yeah. Now, basically, is this saying you are kind of like doing a dinner and you are kind of like talking about something, 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 something. Okay, yeah. Now, basically, is this thing? Let's just say that ki, your girlfriend is like let's just say you are kind of like saying something about like whatever. Okay, yeah, like a typical kind of like a boy and girl talk and things and that, and she is kind of like looking at their phone. It kind of like a feel off. Okay, one thing it kind of like a feel really off. Okay, now basically at that time you might kind of like ignore that, or you just kind of like a shut up, like probably is this thing that ki okay fine. Okay, yeah, let's just say like if she do it once, that is fine, but if she continue doing this thing, then it kind of like a feel really off to me. Okay, yeah. Then it kind of like a question arises that ki why do we kind of like came here? Okay, spending this much amount of money on the dinner, like we should supposed to be kind of like somebody stay at our own place and kind of like eat something. Okay, yeah. Like basically this is in na ki you are presence here but you are not presence here. Like this is what kind of like somebody turn off, right? Now another thing. Okay, another thing. Okay, is this thing na ki now this is kind of like a sort of dinner date and things and that. This is kind of like a somewhat something. Okay, chalo fine, that's it. Okay, yeah. But one of the biggest problem in a couple now is that ki let's just say couple are kind of like try to sleeping. Okay, yeah. Like sleeping means like they are not doing a sex, but just kind of like things that na ki like couple are kind of like somebody went to the bedroom. Okay, they are kind of like a lay down. Okay, yeah. And both are couple, instead of talking, they are kind of like looking at their phone. Literally, okay, yeah. Like basically is this thing na ki my father is kind of like asleep on the bed, my mother sleep on the floor. No, not because of kind of like a partition or things and criticism. No, it's not. It's like that na ki my mother has a kind of like a back pain and things and that. So she usually kind of like a sleep at the floor because she kind of like a say that she feels really good things and that. Fine. Okay, yeah. So I was kind of like a listening that ki my father is kind of like looking at his phone, my mother is kind of like looking at her phone, and both are kind of like looking, watching kind of like a YouTube shorts and things and that. I was like, what the fuck is this thing? Okay, yeah. And I think that now this is like okay, right now my parents are kind of like a bit old, like probably they are almost like a 30-35 year of relationship, and at that time fine. Okay, yeah. But new age couples, these are actually happening like basically in the bed they are kind of like only looking at their phone and things and that. Let me tell you one thing now, if you want to build a relationship, there is a one rule that you should follow. Do not enter mobile phone in the bed premises. Like if you lay down your bed, okay, yeah, your phone should supposed to be kind of like a 10 feet away from your bed. This is kind of like a rule that both couples should supposedly follow. Because let me tell you one thing now, the relationship between you and her is communication, and phone is not letting you do that communication. Okay, let me tell you another thing. Okay, yeah. If you don't want to keep your phone, okay, yeah, you can still use your phone to kind of like make your something better. Example is this thing, what should you supposed to do? Watch reel together na. Instead of kind of like somebody, she is actually looking her reel, like she's kind of like looking her reel on her phone and you are kind of like looking your reel and your phone. Instead of that, you both look reel at the same phone. Like put the headphone, like one earphone and things and that, and you just kind of like sit close to you and just kind of like scroll reels together. Okay, this might be kind of like a much more better idea, na dude? Like instead of you don't really have any kind of conversation talk, just scroll reel together. Okay, this might be kind of like something better, kind of like add value something in between you. Like I don't know, is this thing now? Like right now, I'm not have any kind of like some experience regarding about that, or I'm not been relationship. Okay, yeah. But there is a one thing that I would gonna do follow this thing, dude. Okay, when I was kind of like in the bed, I would not gonna kind of like somebody do this thing. Like basically, I would gonna talk more. Communication is kind of like a very much essential things and that and that. Now this is just happened in relationship point of perspective. But what about career, dude? In the career point of perspective, this is really fuck, dude. Like really fuck. Like let's just say is this saying your senior is kind of like talking to you, and you are kind of like looking at the phone. Literally, you will gonna kind of like some this thing. You might gonna kind of like lose your job. Yeah, if such thing will gonna happen. So have a kind of like a little bit of respect regarding about the elder, and kind of like somebody is just saying that keep follow the proper protocol and things and that and that. Like mobile phone shouldn't supposed to be kind of like a somebody use all the time, and there is nothing really in the mobile phone that you are kind of like checking all the time. Nothing really at all. Okay, yeah. Like literally, this is like if you wanted to win and influence people, na, like how do you supposed to win the influence people? Like let me tell you one thing, na. If you are kind of like a thing that key, like you should supposed to be send some sort of text, or kind of like a put the impression by social media, it does not work at all. Literally, like basically this is na ki I seen so many people who kind of like a text on social media regarding to women, like a cool text like hi, hello, and things and that and that. But in reality, they don't really have any courage to kind of like somebody go and directly talk to her. Like first of all, do I have okay? First of all, do I have that much courage? Well, I don't really have that much courage, but I never do kind of like a somebody kind of like a somebody send any kind of like a cold messages to a girl and things and that and that. This is not my thing, dude. Okay, yeah. Like I have kind of like a little bit of kind of like a decency is this thing, and it's not really that I would not gonna like I'm really hesitate to talk and things. No, no, no. Give me a reason, I will go directly talk. Okay, so this is what kind of like a things. Okay, yeah. So how should you supposed to be kind of like a stop that thing? Okay, yeah. What about ego and kind of like a something? What about like a thinking like random thinking and things and that? Well, these are kind of like a very different topic. Okay, like in the communication, sometimes egos are actually involved, and kind of like a things that's a very different stuff. Okay, yeah. Because when you kind of like a somebody ego in between us, like let me tell you one thing now, when the ego is actually happened, what's the ego? Ego is that na ki like basically this is in na ki I believe, okay, I believe that ki usually ego is actually happen mostly in relationship. In a career, probably it might not happen that much, or I'm not really sure, because in the office politics it might happen. But okay, let's just kind of like I say relationship it happened, and you know it probably. Okay, let's talk about the career point of perspective. How is kind of like a ego is actually impacting career point of perspective. Let's just say, okay, that key you have a kind of like a like when you are kind of like a working in corporate office or things and that and that. I'm giving a specific example regarding about corporate office. Okay, so in the corporate office, there is a particular structure that you should supposedly follow regarding about work and things and that and that and that and that. Okay, yeah. So basically, this is enough, and in that particular context, you have to follow hierarchy regarding about manager, team leader, employee, things and that and that. Okay, yeah. And order should supposed to flow from top to bottom. Okay, yeah. And advice kind of like a flows from bottom to up, bottom to top. Okay, like it's a kind of like a corporate culture. Okay, order follows from top to bottom, and the advice follows from bottom to top. Okay, advice means like that how should we supposed to make our kind of like a structure or operation kind of like a much more better. Okay, and order should so we follow from bottom to top. Okay, you already knew that thing. So in the corporate sector, these are kind of like a structure that we should supposed to follow. Okay, now in this particular thing, sometime those structure does not follow properly. Why? Because delay or kind of like a little bit of ego and things and that and that. Because let me tell you one thing. Okay, let's just say is this saying that ki sometimes senior kind of like a somebody not to kind of like a somebody like senior sometimes give the order once to the say to the team leader or managers kind of like a said this thing you have to do this or do that. Okay, Now, basically, if kind of like some sort of manager who doesn't really listen and he kind of like said that I will not gonna do this thing, I might have ego, or maybe I'm kind of like a senior of him. Should I like basically is this thing? If only thing I will gonna do it, when he kind of like came to me, and then I will kind of like do it and things and that and that. So that is called ego, and that ego is kind of like a came from kind of like a designation point of perspective. Like I am the senior, you are the junior, and things and that and that and that and that. Okay, yeah. So in that context, it might gonna kind of like a hampered a lot. Okay, yeah. And probably it actually solve very easily. Okay, yeah. Because structure are not allow them to do it. Because if someone not follow that thing, or maybe kind of like a somebody is just saying that key like egoistic and things and that person might not gonna survive for a longer period of time. And also office politics are always gonna happen. Okay, yeah. Regarding about how should we supposed to be not to do this thing, it is kind of like a part of our culture. Like every human beings are kind of like somebody create its own plan. Okay, so this actually happen all the time. Okay, but still is this thing na, its ego is not really happen in career that much. It happened initially at the beginning, but it might not gonna survive for longer period of time. Because of that key, there is a kind of like a lot of kind of like a some problem will gonna happen. Okay, yeah. So important thing is that na ki like ego is actually happening mostly in relationship. Because when you have a ego, you it is kind of like a somebody ego have a kind of like a somebody credibility that it can kind of like cripple your relationship in much more very wrong way. Yeah, literally. And ego does not go easily in the relationship. Okay, because let me tell you one thing, in a career point of perspective, obviously other people are kind of like advice regarding about you shouldn't supposed to do this or that and that and that. But in relationship, when ego is actually happened, literally no one knows both people have ego or not. Like, okay, let me tell you one thing now. There is a kind of like only one moment that I'm trying to tell you. So couple of year ago, me like basically my friend and his girlfriend who has a kind of like a somethingly tension in between them. I don't know that. Okay, yeah. And like literally I don't know anything. Like basically they are in relationship and something like that. But the situation kind of like a went too much. Like literally too much. It's kind of like a close to the breakup and things and that and that. Now still I don't know like basically what exactly happened now. Like when the friend when the girlfriend and boyfriend are kind of like a fighting, like they make sure that na ki all the chaos is actually happen in between them. Like other person now are not to get invited in this thing, which is really good thing. Okay, yeah, which is kind of like a somebody making sure that this will not gonna happen, or this will kind of like a somebody make sure everything is kind of like intact. That is really good thing. Okay, yeah, I'm completely accept this thing. So what exactly happened? Okay, yeah, that key like a my friend and his girlfriend are kind of like a fighting and things and that like in the group no one knows anything about what exactly happened. And then after that we have a kind of like a news that key like the girl who kind of like a suddenly crying and things and that and that and that, and like things are kind of like suddenly went too far away. Like too far means like that, like too far. Okay, yeah. Like she's crying and things and that, and he's also kind of like a really egoistic. He was kind of like a say I will not gonna talk to her and things and that for kind of like a any kind of like a reason and things like that and that and that. Okay, yeah. And this is actually happened like a she was actually crying for almost like a 2 weeks or more than that. I'm not like, and literally no one knows. Literally no one knows anything about what exactly happened. Okay, yeah. And basically like one of friend kind of like went to her. Okay, like something kind of like some reason. And when then she knows that ki they have kind of like a breakup and they've been not talking for almost like a 2 weeks, and she's been crying for almost like a day and nights and whatnot. Like she's her situation is kind of like a hell. Like she's kind of like wanted to die. Literally she wanted to kill herself. Like she was kind of like saying this thing like, dude, like why don't you tell us? Okay, yeah. And she also understand, like she kind of like said this thing like this kind of like in between us we are not want to kind of like simply welcome other people to kind of like our chaos and things and that, which is understandable, yeah. But and how this actually happened, like what is actually reason? Let me tell you one thing, the reason is so stupid, like literally so stupid that it kind of like went this far. Like I don't Okay, what is that reason? The reason was like sorry, it's a bit kind of like, okay, so the reason was that ki, like a like a somewhat something, a kind of like a somebody is this thing that ki, um I don't know about the reason, okay, but it was very stupid reason. Probably it's kind of like somebody, she didn't really respect me or something, or she might kind of like said something that I don't really like it and things and that and that. So that's why I get ego and things. Okay, yeah. And dude, like literally, she was kind of like somebody decided to kill her life, end her life for that stupid reason, dude. Okay, yeah. Like, and this is what kind of like a somebody ego kind of like a end the relationship. In career, usually ego is not really happen that much. It might happen, like I'm not kind of like somebody, does not happen, but probably as compared to relationship, less. But in relationship, ego happen more, like literally more. Okay, yeah. Like basically just, yeah, sometime kind of like a somebody phone issue might gonna solve, but ego is not. And ego is kind of like it's going to depend on so many factors, dude, like a character, personality, what exactly other person thinks, and that and that and that. From that point of perspective, yeah, it kind of like happened that way. Okay, yeah. So how do I supposed to make sure that does not happen with me? Okay, yeah. Like basically, if I wanted to build a communication in my relationship, in my career, how do I make sure that does not will gonna impact me a lot? What do I supposed to do? Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the relationship point of perspective. Okay, let's talk about relationship point of perspective. All right, yeah. So first thing first is that he obviously is this thing when I like basically is this thing that ki, the person that I love, okay, yeah, I will make sure that I will gonna communicate more. Okay, yeah. But obviously is this thing, phone is not a kind of like a only thing that I would supposed to be avoid, because it's a very essential, important a gadget, and it is really important for me and important for her too. Okay, yeah. As also is this thing, in my mobile phone there is nothing really need to hide. Okay, yeah. I'm making sure that ki we will kind of like simply communicate, but sometime, okay, yeah, in the communication we don't really have any kind of like a topic to talk. And basically is this thing, let's just say she is a kind of like scrolling reels and things and that and that. So like what would I supposed to do in that particular situation? I would gonna kind of like somebody that ki look at her phone, and basically when she was kind of like scrolling, I was kind of like looking at her screen, or maybe kind of like we are both kind of like looking at the screen. We are both here sharing the headphones, and kind of like somebody we both kind of like somebody hang out his Instagram reels and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. Like in this point of context, okay, yeah, we are both scrolling a reels, we are both funny, we are both laughing, and we are both kind of like assembly that key like a basically is this thing doing like a doing together. Okay, like instead of kind of like somebody scrolling reels, not the scrolling reel together. Okay, yeah. So this might be kind of like a something I would gonna do. Okay, regarding about phone issue. Another thing is that na ki usually is this thing, I can't promise that ki in the bed I would not gonna use the phone, because phone is always been there. Okay, it's a part of our life. Okay, so still is this thing, I would be more emphasize on communication. Like basically I'm gonna make sure my communication is kind of like a much more interesting than kind of like a looking at the phone and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. This is I would gonna do to try to reduce the phone exposure. Okay, yeah. Also is this thing, the phone exposure I would gonna do it less is because of sometime less availability. Okay, yeah. Now less availability means what? Like, okay, uh like I would not gonna talk about this thing, but still what I realize that na ki when you are available all the time, then you are kind of like a values duplicate. Like basically when your supply is always too much, then your demand is kind of like a less. Okay, yeah. So I make sure that I balance that demand and supply gap. Okay, yeah. Like availability of the person and things and that and that. But still these are kind of like somebody, I would not gonna talk about this particular stuff, because it's kind of like a give a very wrong impression towards the people and things like that. So yeah. Okay. So regarding about the phone problem, this is the way that I would supposed to solve. Okay. Now let's talk a bit. Let's talk about um, phone in a career. Okay, in career point of perspective. Okay, obviously this thing, I will gonna perform a kind of like a role as a kind of like a leader, or kind of like a somebody is this thing, or kind of like a leading a people, right? So in that particular context, okay, if someone, my employer or any kind of like a somebody manager or things, kind of like looking at the phone when I'm kind of like saying something, so does it bother to me? Well, I might bother. I would gonna like, how do I supposed to solve that situation? Like basically, I am the boss, okay, and she was kind of like looking at the phone and things and that and that. So what do I supposed to do? I would not gonna kind of like somebody just barge in and kind of like yelling at her. Definitely not. I would gonna stop. Like I was gonna stop talking. I was kind of like looking at. I will kind of like went close to her and kind of like say, "What you are kind of like doing, for mobile phone?" And she was kind of like texting. I thought it's kind of like a very much important. Like I try to make a kind of like conversation a little bit of lighter, okay, so that like this, yeah, like basically is this thing, na, ki it's not really that ki I am kind of like somebody making sure that ki people will not gonna use mobile phone while I'm talking, but I'm making sure that now ki whatever I'm kind of like talking as much as interesting as it possible, so that other people will not gonna use their mobile phone. Okay, and also I'm making sure like if other people are kind of like looking at their mobile phone, that means I think that the way that I'm communicate with my team or with my career people are like a like basically this thing that I'm not communicating that much well, so that's why they're kind of like looking at their phone and things and that and that. So I make sure my communication game is kind of like as much as strong it is, okay, having less availability, and whatever the stuff that I'm saying is kind of like a meant to be right, meant to be point, okay. So this is the way that I should always solve, okay, but phone is always been there. I will not gonna kind of like eliminate phone and things and that. It is part of our life, so yeah, okay. Now let's talk about ego in a relationship, okay. So ego in relationship a lot. Obviously is this thing when I will gonna partner with any kind of like a particular person, okay, obviously some certain thing that I will not gonna like, okay, and that is true by the way, because of that ki we all are human, and we both are kind of like a different human beings, have different needs and kind of like a perspective looking at the world and things and that. And obviously something might kind of like off to me, like something kind of like something that ki I feel that ki this is kind of like something off that I don't like about her. And obviously she also kind of like said that ki like, Saurabh, I don't like about you this, okay, now basically is this thing na ki ego when it actually came, okay, why is actually came. Ego is actually came when you kind of like somebody hurting somebody respect. Okay, let me kind of like give you a perspective, okay. Let me talk about the men, okay, because usually is this thing na for the male, okay, male means purush, okay, male, what is really essential thing for them in the relationship? Love, no. Respect, literally, like basically every male person who expect a respect from her partner, not too much, but kind of like somebody like kind of like a things that like not kind of like somebody your partner is kind of like disrespecting you in front of everyone and things and that. Like basically this is kind of like a very turning off, and like every male person will kind of like feel really off, like ego will gonna hurt, okay, when this kind of like a stuff is actually happened, okay. So basically is this thing na I would gonna tell her upfront, okay, listen, respect is a kind of like a somewhat something matter to me, okay, do not hurt my respect, or maybe something that na ki if something that you don't like it, tell me upfrontly, okay, that we would supposed to solve this thing, like basically try not to be you against me, try to be you with me against the problem, so that we should suppose solve the problem together. Obviously you will not gonna like something about me, tell me, I would try to fix that thing, okay. So this is the way that if we could supposed to be do this thing na, we could supposed to be not creating that much ego. And also is this thing na, ego is actually also came with the truth, how honest you are. Let me tell you one thing na, most of people are not really honest with their wife, with their kind of like girlfriend and things and that, and I'm not really sure why they does that. They kind of like think that they are kind of like doing a lot of Tismar Khan and things and that, so that they would kind of like hide stuff that from their wife and girlfriend. I don't know why does it do that. Honest is a kind of like a very much essential. Okay, yeah. I am making sure that I will gonna like a honest as much as possible. But I think that now the line of work that I chose, in this particular line, I might gonna do something like a crazy secretive things and that and that. Obviously that thing will kind of like simply required me to kind of like not to talk with her, but rest of the life obviously it's completely open free market, and I would kind of like share everything and being really honest regarding about everything. Okay, yeah. Like this is the kind of like simply one thing that key ego is actually happen when you have a kind of like simply less information or fake information or lie or things and that. Okay, I would gonna be really honest. Like if I fuck up and fuck up, and like basically also like why like I'm seeing these people so much. Like some of my friends are kind of like simply feel so much proud because of they are hiding something from their wife. I was like, why, dude? Like basically, this is your wife, like your partner. She will kind of like live with you for the rest of the lifetime. Why are you kind of like hiding? Like basically, my friend is kind of like hiding that he does not drink alcohol and he drinks alcohol too much. Okay, and he hides this stuff from his wife. Like, dude, why are you kind of like hiding? And he kind of like said like my god, my wife does not really kind of like understand regarding things. Then let her understand. I'll tell her like alcohol is not wrong, but kind of like somebody be in control. Like basically tell her that what you thinks and that there is no wrong thing about that. Then he was kind of like saying to me, do you really knew, have you ever kind of like been in relationship or not, have you ever kind of like things, what is that, do you run and fuck up, dude. Okay, yeah. Like I don't know why does, and they kind of like feel really proud that they are kind of like hiding this stuff from their wife and things like that. I don't know what they are getting something. I am not really sure. But what I will gonna do, I'm being really honest regarding about what activity do I do. Like every shit do I supposed to be do. I will kind of like tell her everything upfrontly. Okay, so this is the way that it might kind of like assembly that key little less egoistic thing happened. Okay, yeah. It like ego is actually part of the life. Okay, yeah, obviously it's in the relationship. Ego something happened to, and obviously I am also human too. It also happened with me too. But because of being honest, being kind of like assembly, being communication and that, I'm making sure that ego things happen very less in my relationship. Because why am I saying this thing? Because let me tell you one thing now, my life is a kind of like simply I have to do so many stuff. Okay, yeah. And relationship is a kind of like a very much essential. I have to make sure my relationship as much as better because I seen lot of worse relationship. My parents are really one of the big example of my life. I don't want my relationship end up like them. So I'm putting a lot of effort to not to be like them because it really crippled. Like literally there is no sense of what you will kind of like exist in your life and things and that. So I'm making sure that this will not gonna happen. Okay, so this is the way that I should supposed to be kind of like essentially solve the ego in relationship point of perspective. Okay, now let's talk about the kind of like career point of perspective. How does ego, how I supposed to solve? Same thing. In a career point of perspective, obviously order flows from top to bottom, advice flow from bottom to top. Okay, now regarding about this thing, what kind of like something egoistic, like do I kind of like get egoistic of something like basically my junior kind of like said something, so will I kind of like get really egoistic, like how does he kind of like said something and that. Well, I kind of like let my people, my team have kind of like all the breathing space regarding about what they want and things and that. But still hierarchy is essential because it's a structure. Okay, and that structure is kind of like keep us alive. Okay, obviously if you have credibility you will kind of like simply climb the ladder up. Okay, but kind of like a disrespect or kind of like a simply bad key, kind of like a simply ego and things, this is not really good stuff. Okay, I want that key kind of like a simply whatever the kind of like a senior you are, respect their senior, respect their kind of like a position and designation and things and that. Okay, because it is kind of like a build the bond between every people. Okay, being ego, like I am the senior, why would I supposed to be things and that and that. Like basically is this thing, like I will be kind of like perform as a kind of like a role as a leader. I would kind of like somebody kind of like try to execute a task and things and that and that. Obviously, I might not gonna write all the time. I will kind of like fail all the time, but it doesn't mean that ki a kind of like a things that ki someone kind of like somebody said wrong to me. Huh, but I also understand that na ki I have to be understand that ki I might gonna wrong and I need a kind of like a somebody a reason or things or that. I don't know. I think that na, at this particular topic, I'm not really sure about how do I supposed to be aware of that, because being a leader is a kind of like a lot of things. Okay, yeah. How do I supposed to handle your junior or kind of like the people around you, things and that and that. There are so many kind of like simply levels of things that I have to figure it out because I haven't really experienced. So I'm not really sure. I will kind of like tell you the advice, but those are advice are kind of like a very empty advice, because how do I supposed to kind of like somebody like I don't really have any prior experience regarding about that. All right. So this is how I kind of like something like that key distraction, so that I would kind of like a present, and this is how I kind of like eliminate them. Okay, this is it. I should supposed to end here, and thank you.